There's a big disparity in the sizes of the budgets of World Tour teams. Some have billionaire owners like Omega Pharma Quickstep or Tinkoff-Saxo, and others are run purely on commercial terms like Belkin and in fact Team Sky. Now, let's just say they've got an average budget of roughly 20 million euros. That is slightly above average for World Tour teams, but it's easier to calculate. Of that 20 million euros, about 60% will come from the title sponsor. 20% of that budget will probably come from other sponsors, so perhaps a bike sponsor or a car sponsor or something along those lines. And then 20% actually comes from money that races pay the teams for attending. Prize money doesn't count in that. Prize money goes straight to the riders, but start money goes straight to the teams. So out of a 20 million budget, a team could be getting as much as 4 million euros per year just for turning up to races. Now, setting budgets aside for a minute, where does the money go and how is it allocated within a team? Well, you probably wouldn't be surprised to hear that the riders are the most valuable commodity of a cycling team, but of the budget, 60% of it goes straight into their pockets as salaries. So you can imagine just exactly why team managers are wincing when they see Alberto Contador or Chris Froome skittering down the road. Now, staff obviously make up a significant chunk of the budget as well, so their salaries probably would run at about 15% of the total budget. So overall then, 75% of that budget is purely on salaries, but then a cycling team is essentially only as good as the people that are in it. Now, what about infrastructure and things? In the car park behind me, you can see a whole load of vehicles from Sky and Orica Green Edge. But actually, the team probably doesn't own all that many of them. So in this instance with Sky, Jaguar, in all likelihood, will probably be leasing them the cars for free as part of their sponsorship deal. The buses they do own outright. But if you actually fancy running a cycling team, you don't need to buy a brand new bus. There's quite a nice line in second-hand team buses, so I gather. I don't know exactly who's using the Euskaltel team buses from last year, but I know you could probably buy one for about 50,000 euros if you fancied it. So although they don't have to rent this kit every year, they will have had to have bought it at some point. So that needs to be factored into the team budget. And every year they'll write off a certain amount of that as depreciation. However, running these buses and things also costs a huge amount. So you're potentially looking at about 400,000 euros a year just to keep them on the road. Getting to races, in fact, takes a huge amount of budget as well, and that's partly the reason why a team gets so much start money, is they get paid to go there. So potentially 2 million euros a year, if you're a World Tour team, is spent flying your riders around the world, driving your team buses and driving your staff. You could also factor in training camps and so forth into that as well. So if you fancy doing altitude training at the top of Tenerife, you will in fact have to pay for that, obviously. So that all comes into that 2 million bracket. Now, you may be surprised to hear that teams spend an awful lot of money on marketing and PR. You'd have thought that winning bike races was enough, but no, a team like Sky will potentially be spending up to £1 million a year on the marketing on top of the race results that they get. So that's obviously everything from websites to paying for PR staff and personnel, press conferences, all that kind of thing. As well as all the infrastructure that moves around the entire world, like the buses and the cars and things, the teams also have what's called a service course, which is the base where all this stuff is kept and all the spares and things. So the team obviously has to pay for that. They'll generally be leasing it as a cheap warehouse, but running those things, and including the office staff as well, it's probably going to run about 400,000 euros per year. So again, another big chunk of their budget just in terms of keeping the team moving. Now, the final thing that you might be surprised to know is that teams actually have to spend an awful lot of money buying bike stuff. Now, they've got sponsors, yeah, but sometimes a team will choose to buy stuff on top of that. So it might be special wheels, for example, that are either super light or super aerodynamic. It could be nutrition products, for example, if the team doesn't get on with the sponsor's products. So they have to put aside a big pot of money every year for that. Now, some teams obviously don't have the budget for that, and they'll be riding stock products, but other teams with bigger budgets will certainly be investing in that kind of thing.
Pour encore des vidéos de Tour de France, cliquez ici.
What Matt's saying is for more Tour de France content, click on me.
And to subscribe, click on me.